Hi, I'm Jeff McCausland, founder and CEO of Diamond 6 Leadership and Strategy. What I want to talk to you about today is not what leaders should do, but do leaders need to spend time thinking about what they need to stop doing. Later this summer, I'm going to make a trip out to Bend, Oregon, lovely area on the west coast of the United States, to conduct a leadership workshop for a large education association. I discovered just a couple weeks ago another reason why this particular trip is going to be a lot of fun, and that is, believe it or not, in Bend, Oregon is the last Blockbuster store. Earlier this year, there was a second store that still existed in Western Australia, but it closed. There had been two stores left in the United States beyond Bend, both in Alaska, but they closed last July. So now literally there's only one store left. And according to my initial research, it's close to a cannabis retailer and next to a pet crematorium, so it ought to be a particularly fascinating place to visit. But you might ask yourself, why in the world is that of any interest beyond being an iconic curiosity? Well, it comes to that question I posed at the onset. What do leaders think about in terms of what they need to stop doing and not solely focus on what they need to do that is different, new, or innovative? You know, all organizations, all leaders want their organizations to be innovative. Peter Drucker, a very famous consultant on organizational theory, used to frequently say, you know, innovation is change that brings on a new level of performance. But I think sometimes that drives our thinking towards what's that new technology, what's that new product, what's that new organizational design or process that's going to move us forward. But innovation sometimes may also need to be, what do we need to stop doing that also is holding us back or not reflecting how our environment is changing? Clearly, the leadership of Blockbuster did not evaluate how the arrival of Netflix over time was going to destroy them. At the turn of the century, around 2000, believe it or not, there were 9,000 Blockbuster stores worldwide. By 2010, Dish Network would buy the remaining stores for about $320 million, but the company had shrunk to about 300 stores, and now we're down to one single store being left. So clearly, effective leaders need to understand the environment they're operating in, think about how things are changing, and move forward into the future. But sometimes, again, they can spend too much time focusing on that new piece of technology, product, or process. Obviously, Blockbuster and the leaders that led it failed. So how can we avoid that particular fate? Well, one way, I think, is leaders may want to sit down and reflect, how much fixed energy does my organization have, and how much free energy my organization have? What is fixed energy? Fixed energy has to do all about stability within the organization. We're doing something, it's working, and we're continuing to do that in as stable an environment as we can. It has to do with organizational commitment by all of the employees up and down. It has to do oftentimes with a top-down or lecture dialogue from leaders down to employees. It has to do with traditions. It is often management focused on organizational design, resource allocation, or work standards. And again, it often focuses on technology and technological change. It's not unimportant, but to be successful and look around corners, leaders have to think about free energy in their organization. Do we have an adaptive environment? Is some of our energy, if you will, held in reserve or focused on new ideas and products? Is there a dialogue ongoing between those who are leading and those who are led? Are we, in fact, truly innovative? Does leadership for the organization focus on future and change? And are we focusing on human beings? You know, the owners of that last Blockbuster store have now widely been interviewed, and they've even tweeted out that they're very excited about the unique position they have. A local brewery there in Bend has come up with a new craft beer called the Last Blockbuster, and I plan to give that a try when I'm out there. But again, as leaders think about their organization, how do we avoid this fate? How do we think about those things we need to stop doing as opposed to those things that we think might help us in the future? And finally, how do we avoid thinking about things that may make us iconic over time, but leave us perhaps way behind our competition or even a failure? Thanks very much.